He's not ready to die.
Dr. Forrest, please dial 118.
Oh, God. Please don't take my child. He's not ready to die.
Dr. Forrest, please dial 118.
My way, it's time to send. As long as I have the money, control the thing again. Give me a quick, the selfish way. We're living, whatever, live on, stand, terror strike. Again, terror strike. Again, terror strike. Again, terrorizing me in the fucking way of life.
You're listening to Radical Revolutionaries Podcast with your hosts, Jestin Sampson, Carlos Becerra, and Luis Zuniga.
Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the Radical Revolutionaries. I'm Julio Castaneda, your producer for today, August 28th. Justin, our host, how are you doing today, man?
Hey, how's everyone doing? Hope everyone's having an amazing Friday. TGIF, everyone.
That's right.
I hope you're doing well, Julio. How have you been?
Man, I've been doing excellent, bro. I cannot complain, man.
I do apologize for the lack of episodes over the past week. So we actually decided that we could safely, Julio and myself, could safely record shows in the studio while respecting social distancing, and that's what we're doing. So I'm on one side of the studio. Julio is on the other side of the studio. I promise we're 6 feet apart. We're about 6 feet apart.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely more than 6 feet apart. So
Yeah.
I'm in the corner of the studio right now. Justin is like right in the middle. So we're a good 15 feet apart. We're doubling the distance that we actually need.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to set a good example for everyone. So I want to mention that Radical Revolutionaries is brought to you by Action Book, where people organize. Check us out, actionbook.online. Also check out our website, www.radicalrevolutionaries.com. You are right now seeing, below me, you are seeing our social media sites. So check those out. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. Check us out. Subscribe if you like what you see. If you're on YouTube, and like our Facebook page. We are almost at 1,000 likes. Wow. Our goal is to get to 2,000 by the end of September, and I know we can do it. So please, if you like what you see, please help support progressive media by following us on social media, and please also become a Patreon member today. We are funded by people like you, so that we don't have to turn to corporations to get to tell us what to do. We're completely independent.
We're independent. INDPENDENT. Do you know what that means?
So we are funded by people like you. So we're not going to tell the story with the corporate spin. So please sign up and be a member today. You can see the Patreon link cycling through. Also, you can find the link on our website, radicalrevolutionaries.com. First and foremost, we want to reach out and offer our best wishes to the Blake family. Jacob Blake was unfortunately shot by Kenosha, Wisconsin police. It happened last Sunday. And because of it, it has renewed the calls for justice for Black lives. We believe that we can't have any justice unless there's justice for Black and brown individuals.
No justice, no peace.
So CBS News did a great job highlighting some of the protests that have been happening over the week. Let's get to it, because this is really, really, really insightful. So
tonight, Wisconsin's governor has sent more than 100 National Guard troops to Kenosha. A curfew is also in effect there following violent protests after police shot a Black man in the back several times. Tonight, he's in stable condition. 2 officers have been placed on administrative leave. And a warning, what you're about to see is disturbing. CBS's Mola Lenghi reports tonight from Kenosha.
This 20 seconds of video taken by eyewitness Rayshawn White shows the moment 29-year-old Jacob Blake was shot in the back by a Kenosha police officer. At least 7 bullets were fired. You can see as he walked to the driver's side of an SUV, an officer grabbing Blake's shirt as he got inside. Rayshawn White describes what happened before he started filming.
One officer had him in a headlock. He was pulling his arm. The other officer had him in a headlock, punching him in his ribs, and he kind of maneuvered out the way, and the female officer tased him.
Police were responding to a domestic disturbance call on Sunday evening.
Complainant says Jacob Blake isn't supposed to be there, and he took the complainant's keys and is refusing to give them back.
2 of the officers involved in the shooting were placed on leave during the investigation. Overnight, anger turned to vandalism. Some set city vehicles ablaze while officers in riot gear clashed with others. This incident comes almost 3 months to the day George Floyd was killed in police custody. Attorney Benjamin Crump represents the Floyd family, and now the Blake family too.
It is foreseeable that these things are going to happen if you continue to engage in racism and discrimination in your policies and practices.
The eyewitness, who didn't want to be shown on camera, tells us that Blake scuffled with police before the shooting and that he heard an officer tell Blake to drop the knife, although he never actually saw a knife. Today, the governor deployed 125 members of the National Guard here to help. And tonight, for a second night in a row, a curfew starting at 8 p.m.
Justin, it's just like, it gets difficult to keep hearing the same things over and over. And what I mean by that is hearing the excuses about folks that want to say, well, he was resisting.
You did police training.
And they would teach basically paranoia. If you go to a restaurant, sit with your back to where you could see what's happening in the entire restaurant. Somebody might come get you. The instructors would tell stories about how they kept guns in the shower close to them in the ceiling because you never knew when something was going to go down. They would tell stories of how they kept guns in the refrigerator. And to me, this is just teaching paranoia, Justin, and it's not a way where you develop community relations, where I believe that community policing is one of the things that is needed in so many of these police departments where we're seeing these atrocities happen. Dude, the police gave water to the shooter in Wisconsin. They gave him a bottle of water.
What I want to point out is, this has sparked outrage all over the country again and fueled the conversations about let's quote unquote defund police or abolish police. We can have those conversations. I do believe that we ask too much from our police officers. We ask them to be public safety officers, and we ask them to be mental health workers. We ask them to be social workers. We ask them to be experts on homelessness. I do believe that cities and counties and maybe even the police department should actually hire people who actually are experts on these issues, rather than sending cops to a situation where they are dealing with someone who may be suffering from some mental health issues. Let's send some mental health workers. Let's send some psychologists to the scene.
Right.
If we're dealing with someone who's homeless, let's send over some social workers and some housing advocates so that they can be able to be worked in the system and that they can be able to get the housing that they need. If there's an issue with drug addiction, let's send in some drug and alcohol counselors to be able to provide the help that they need and provide the service, recommend them to certain services in the community. So that's what I'm looking to. When we talk about, quote, defunding police, that's what I'm looking to. I'm looking to, rather than asking police to do everything, let's have them focus on public safety and preventing crime. And let's have everybody else who deals with drug addiction and mental health and a whole slew of other things. Let's have the city provide those services. That way police don't have to get involved in those things. I know there's also a conversation about abolishing police altogether, and to that I say, okay, yeah, we can definitely have that conversation. I'm not, I am totally open to those ideas. But what I am saying is that, look, at the end of the day, we have another black man who was shot. It's absolutely sad. It is a sad song played over and over again. We're 3 months away, off from the death of George Floyd. And now we're having to see this once again. When's it gonna stop? Like,
it's so sad, Justin. I saw a video yesterday that my friend Abdul posted online, and it was of a young man. He looked like he was in his maybe mid-20s.
Yeah.
He worked for FedEx. He was a black man.
Yeah.
And he was telling a story on his phone it was like a selfie video. He said that he was just on his route when he noticed that there was a white man in the truck that seemed to be upset because he was trying to get like around him, and he's just going over through his normal route. And as he's, trying to merge right, this white man in the white truck passes him, almost nearly hits him, spits at the man, at the FedEx driver, and calls him the N-word. And this man that posted that video, he's in tears. He's trying to express the pain that he feels because it's not the first time something like this has happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he just cannot wrap his mind behind the fact that this just happened to him. A human being.
Mm-hmm.
Just going on about his day. Not trying to hurt anybody, minding his business, working, and this man has the audacity to spit on him and then call him the N-word.
Yeah.
Telling him, you're worthless. You don't belong on this earth. What are you doing on this white man's road? And you know what? We'd like to believe that racism is a thing of the past. Not us, but there's a lot of folks that would love to believe that. But you know what? The truth is that it's alive and well. It feels, I remember learning about the civil rights era. We were supposed to have gotten past this, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like we're still reliving those same times now.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? We're at a stage where people are starting to pay attention. And we're going to talk about this we're going to talk about this too later in the show, but it actually brought one particular industry to its knees. But before that, I want to talk about this one gentleman who you're about to see on our screen. I mean, we're not going to actually show his face, but I will say that guy's name, Kyle Rittenhouse. Also, along with other right-wing militiamen, carried guns. Basically, I think possibly to intimidate protesters. And unlike everyone else who had the guns, this guy actually acted on it and shot 3 people and killed 2.
Yeah, Justin, I know that we were talking about this story on the way here to the studio, and I did mention to you I had learned that his mom, Kyle's mom, is actually the one that drove him to the protest.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So this person, this Mr. Rittenhouse has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. So we're going to see how this plays out. I do think, though, this kind of demonstrates what we're talking about, right? This guy literally was given water by police, from what we've heard. Meanwhile, if this person was, let's say, wasn't Kyle Rittenhouse, but let's just, I'm not going to mention names, but let's say it was an African American and he was carrying a gun to this protest. Do you think the police would probably take kindly to that? They'd probably shoot him before anything else.
That's what really pisses me off, Justin. Like, we see what happened with Kyle. Like, there's even, it hasn't been confirmed, not on my side, but I heard they gave him water. The police officers gave him water. They let him walk after the fucking shooting happened.
They arrested him the next day.
Oh.
So I want everyone to think about it this way, right? This guy can literally go to a protest, kill 2 people, and go home that night, thinking that he wouldn't get caught. Meanwhile, we have situations like Jacob Blake, who got shot in the back. We got situations like George Floyd, who got choked to death, literally, because because I guess he used counterfeit money. And on the flip side, you have someone like Dylan Roof, who literally shot up an African American church. The cops went on a nationwide manhunt to find him. They found him, arrested him, and actually bought him lunch. They bought him Burger King.
They bought this motherfucking killer Burger King.
Yeah. They bought Dylan Roof, 9 people at an African American church. That goes to show you, like, hey, racism doesn't exist in America. What the hell are you talking about? Okay, then why then, in the case of Dylan Roof, who literally is a serial killer, who killed 9 people in a church, who went into a African American church, shot people, and his rationale was because he wanted to start a race war. And what? These people literally took him in, got him lunch, and okay, he's on his merry way. Meanwhile, if this person was black, I can almost guarantee you these officers would probably shoot him first. They'd probably drag his body back dead than anything else. So, like, shame on anyone who's saying, hey, racism in America doesn't exist. Because it really does. And you're starting to see it right now with your own eyes. When is this going to stop? Really? When is it going to stop where we're going to see black and brown people being literally brutalized at the hands of the police? Like, there has to be some sort of boiling point. And we're starting to see that, right? People are marching in the streets. People are starting to take action and actually hold elected officials accountable. And not just the president, right? Because it's so easy to go rail on Donald Trump. But we're starting to hold district attorneys accountable to make sure that crooked cops get prosecuted. People are starting to hold mayors and city council members and state legislatures accountable, making sure that these things don't happen in their state, in their city. And the only way it's going to stop is when we recognize it and we actually hold the people who have the power to stop it, we hold them accountable. And that's, the people who I mentioned, right? It's not just Donald Trump, right? He's part of the problem. But what is your mayor doing to make sure that they hire police chiefs who actually take this type of thing seriously? What about the people in your state legislature? What are they doing to make sure that situations like we saw with George Floyd and with Jacob Blake and with Breonna Taylor, like, what are we doing to make sure that those types of situations don't happen again? Like, how are we holding them accountable? And I'm glad you mentioned the NBA, because that brings us to the next segment, because yesterday, actually on Wednesday, the players, they, as you mentioned, right, they literally walked out. They went on strike for that one day.
It was beautiful.
They went on strike, and you actually are citing some of the people who kind of spoke out during, who've been speaking out after the death of Jacob Blake, and other people like Breonna Taylor as well. There have been calls for justice as well for Breonna Taylor. You're seeing pictures of LeBron James, Doc Rivers, who is the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers, Chris Paul, George Hill. There are a bunch of other players who aren't, who we don't have pictures of, who have been speaking out. There are a lot of people who have been speaking out and, telling their stories. Actually, in fact, I learned this. There was a player on the Milwaukee Bucks. The name escapes me, actually. He was telling the story about how he was a victim of police violence. If I'm not mistaken, the story was he parked in a handicap spot at a convenience store just to grab something real quick, and then he'd make his way out. and then he got met with some hard treatment by the police. And mind you, this is somebody who was making millions of dollars playing basketball. So, LeBron James actually hits it on the head really well, right? You could be the richest man in the world. You could be the most famous man in the world. You could be the most talented person in the world. But as long as you're black in America, you're only thought of one thing. You're black. And that was profound to me, because if you stop and really think about it, it really is true, right? Like, nobody thinks about LeBron James as the most talented basketball player in the world. This is somebody, the first thing that comes to mind, he's black. What do you have to say about that, Julio? Because I think it's kind of profound when we have literal people who are making millions of dollars, and then when they go back, to their communities, they're simply treated, no different than, how can I say it? Like, they, even though they have millions of dollars, they're still, being brutalized at the hands of police.
Yeah. Sadly, it doesn't matter in America what walk of life you come from. It doesn't matter how educated you are. At least this is what the police officers that have been front and center in the media are teaching us. The departments that try to hide the fact that they are handcuffing Jacob Blake to his bed, even though he hasn't been charged with any crime. They're handcuffing him to the bed at the hospital. A paralyzed man shot by police that was not armed. He is handcuffed. That's what the father of Jacob Blake is telling us, even though they have not charged him. So, whether you're an NBA player, whether you're Jacob Blake, what this system is telling us is, if you're a person of color, this is not your country. You are not white. You are not the master race. How dare you speak out? Dribble. Jared Kushner came out with a statement not long ago about this, pretty much saying the same thing. Shut the fuck up and dribble. Well, fuck you, Jared Kushner. No. Fuck your white supremacy. Fuck Trump's. Fuck Ivanka's, Melania's. Fuck everybody on that team. We're going to get him out of office because this shit has got to stop. Enough is enough.
Absolutely. And you know what? There have been calls, by right-wingers who are just angry, like, hey, just be quiet. Like, you live in America, you should be lucky. Like, meanwhile, this country doesn't love them back, right? It really doesn't. And if you think about it, it has never loved them at all. Whether you want to go as far as slavery, whether you want to go as far as Jim Crow and blatant segregation, or like what we're seeing right now at the hands of law enforcement, people who are supposed to protect and serve our communities. So, as we conclude this one story, I want to say we're going to follow all of these stories as they continue. The DA, along with the Milwaukee Department of Justice, are continuing a swift investigation. We're going to see what comes out from this. We're hoping, no matter what happens, that justice will prevail. Justice for Jacob, and justice for everyone who suffered at the hands of law enforcement. And and you mentioned this. We were on the way here to the studio. We mentioned this. We need to start taking community policing and actually taking it seriously. And one thing we need to start doing, and I think Senator Sanders really hammered this during his presidential campaign, and I think it's a great idea. Why not police department hire people within their own community to protect their own community? It seems like such a no-brainer thing, right? Like, why not have your police department reflect the diversity of the people who live in your city, right? So why not have a majority black police force in a city that might be majority black, for instance? It only makes sense, right? It only makes sense that you have people that look like the community, that talk like the community, protecting the community. And I think that that's one way to, to kind of alleviate this. And we kind of talked about it earlier, right? About how, making sure that we send funding that is going towards police to other services. And okay, if people want to talk about maybe scrapping the police altogether and starting with something different, okay, we can have that conversation. I'm very interested in learning about that. If you have some ideas on how abolish police would work, please put a comment down below. Let's have a conversation. I'm very interested in learning how that all plays out. All of this is, this will come to an end, and Black and brown folks living in our communities can finally live in peace. They can finally live, without the fear that they'll be brutalized by police, and that they can, live their lives like everyone else, right? They can go to work, they can come back home, see their kids and their families, and hopefully one day we get there. So let's move on to the next segment. Did you watch the RNC by any chance? I know the RNC concluded yesterday. Trump
I did watch a lot of the highlights, and I did see that Don Jr. and his girlfriend were more than likely on some kind of white powder, some kind of
You're not gonna know.
some kind of like magical snow bunny type of powder. I don't know, but it was definitely an interesting week. We saw a lot of the fears, the same old, promising another 4 years of the terribleness we're seeing. Their message is, hey guys, do you hate America for everything that's happening? Yeah, we do. Well, how about 4 more years?
Hey, you don't like them, them Latinos, they're invading our country, and them blacks, they're loud in the streets. We need to, I don't know, throw them in prison. I don't know what goes on in Donald Trump's, wild and little mind of his, to be honest. But but here's the thing, right? Mary Trump, right? And I'll let Julio kind of read a little bit about her, because this is actually fascinating stuff. A recording broke out over the weekend last week talking about Donald Trump and talking about what kind of a man Donald Trump really is. But I think he wanted to read something about who Mary Trump is.
Mary Ann Trump Berry is an American attorney and a retired United States federal judge. She became an assistant United States attorney in 1974 and was first appointed to the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey by President Ronald Reagan in 1983.
Julio, or?
Yes. So Mary Trump, she is obviously Trump's sister. She's an American attorney, federal judge, and she was caught with a hot mic, is what I believe happened there. Is that right, Justin?
Yeah. So she kind of said some pretty damning things about Trump. So let's hear what she had to say. This is courtesy of the Associated Press, and you're going to be floored about the things you learned about Trump.
All he wants to do is appeal to his base. He has no principles. None. And his base, my God, if you were a religious person, you want to help people.
Do you have anything to say about your 2016 campaign promise that Mexico would pay for it?
Yeah, they are paying for it. Yeah. They're going to pay at the border, at the gate. Cars going through. We're going to do a toll. Or we may do a toll for money being sent back and forth. They will pay for it, yeah.
The change of story is a lack of preparation, the lying, the holy. But he's appealing to the base, what they're doing with the kids at the border. He said, I maybe will send my judge sister down to the border, meaning my tough judge sister. And I said to Anne Marie, well, I guess he hasn't read my immigration opinions. but, in one ear and out the other.
Has he read?
No, he doesn't read.
And he went to Fordham for 1 year, and then he got into University of Pennsylvania. I guess he had somebody take the exams.
No way.
And
he had somebody take his entrance exams?
SATs or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
That's what I believe. I even remember
Trump talking about it.
You know the funny part about this, right, is that Trump, he calls himself a stable genius, right? Stable genius. Amazing stuff. This is someone, by the way, who, who allowed someone to take his exams for him. And why? Because his daddy has a lot of money and he can hire people who he wants or whatever it is.
Pretty much.
So yeah. And here's the thing, right? Everyone, you might be thinking, hey, Donald Trump really is this quote unquote genius, right? Meanwhile, we know the stories about how Trump's daddy gave Donald Trump, millions of dollars to start failed businesses 6 times. I think his companies went bankrupt 6 times. If I'm not
that
mistaken.
sounds about right.
So literally, right? And at the same time, this man wants to be given another term. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
Fuck that.
Like, you really think that people will fall for the snake oil again? Because in 2016, Trump was talking to people's pain. He was a snake oil salesman. And he was basically baiting everyone, hey, the establishment has been fucking you. Vote for me because I'm not a part of that establishment. And now what we're learning is that he was part of that establishment. He got rich off of that same establishment. We all knew this, right? Progressives knew this in 2016. We tried warning the Clinton campaign, iceberg dead ahead, and nobody listened.
Dead ahead, sir.
And now, new polling has shown that Trump is starting to gain ground in key battleground states such as Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida. My God, if Trump gets another term, I don't even want to know where America is headed to. I just find this to be absolutely fascinating.
It's outrageous, flabbergasting.
So, and here's the thing, right? Trump appeals to his base, and you know what? Mary Trump is right. He really does. Who's his base? It's these, white individuals who are just mad that people of color are starting to become successful, and these people wish that they had as successful as they were. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like,
for real.
Like you are literally I don't know what to say. Like Trump's base is literally that, right? It's frustrated white dudes who just don't like the fact that there are individuals of color who are more successful than they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't get it. So, this is fascinating, and like I've said over and over again, you and you and you and you, we all need to go vote in November. Yeah. I don't care who you vote for. Obviously, don't vote for Trump. That's all I have to say. But look, we can't give this guy a second term. So you go vote for whoever you want. You want to vote for Biden? You want to go vote for Holly Hawkins, Gloria Larita? Go right on ahead. And also, right, we were talking about making sure that we live our values by saying that Black Lives Matter. There's so much more to vote for than the president. So if you are like, you know what, Justin, I hate Joe Biden for what he did with the crime bill and welfare and trying to gut Social Security. Okay, I hear you, man. Like, no one needs to tell me that I don't like Joe Biden for those things either. But there's so much stuff to work. Damn it, this damn fly. This has got to be a blooper right here. So you got so many things to vote for, right? You can vote for people for Congress, right? So we can pass our progressive agenda forward. who can help people like AOC and people like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and the rest of the squad. We got state legislators to vote for. We got governors and mayors and city councils. There's so much to vote for. So even if you're frustrated with who the Democratic nominee is, go out and vote. Go out and vote. Vote for progressive city councils. Go vote for a progressive mayor for your city. Vote for a progressive state legislature, because that's how we affect change. You know, one old Jewish man did say, real change doesn't take place with a president telling us what to do. It takes place when millions of people come together, and it comes from the bottom up, right? It comes from us.
Amen.
So let's actually go out and vote and make sure that our voices are heard, that our progressive values are heard. Let's move on to this one. This one is actually fascinating. You know who Jerry Falwell is, right, Julio? Let's actually, for those who don't know who he is, Julio has something he would like to read to kind of show people who Jerry Falwell is, and that way people know, like, who we're talking about.
Falwell Sr. died in 2007, and his efforts to combine his religious and political commitments fell to his son, Jerry Falwell Jr., who, as president of the Christian college Liberty University, has been outspoken in his support of Donald Trump. This resulted in criticism from students, faculty, and alumni of Liberty University. Concerns were also aired over Falwell Jr.'s behavior and financial dealings, although he generally remained a popular leader within the Liberty community. Much like his father, Falwell Jr. was outspoken in his opinions on issues important to the religious right. He supported Second Amendment rights to the point of advocating that students at Liberty University carry guns.
Yeah, so that's who Jerry Falwell is, right? He is a man who basically preaches this moral purity. Oh, sex is evil. Them gays are bad. This is a guy who also suggested that 9/11 was caused by feminists and by LGBT folks and people who...
He sounds like a winner. Isn't he also the guy that likes to have pool boys fuck his wife?
So we were just getting to this. This man actually resigned as president of Liberty University, one of the largest evangelical colleges in America. And let's play this. Play this clip by ABC News, who actually was talking about this scandal. This is going to rock your boat, guys.
Now to reports, one of the president's most vocal evangelical supporters could be stepping down from Liberty University amid details of an alleged sex scandal. Jerry Falwell Jr. claiming his wife had an affair, the young man saying that is not the real story. And as details emerge tonight, those reports Falwell is resigning. What he told our Kira Phillips late today about that.
Tonight, multiple reports claiming Liberty University president Jerry Falwell Jr. has resigned. One of the most influential figures in the Christian conservative movement, mired in an alleged sex scandal, tells ABC News that he has not stepped down yet. The prominent evangelical's young business partner revealing scathing details of a 7-year affair with his wife. In an interview with Reuters, Giancarlo Granda says, "Becky and I developed an intimate relationship, and Jerry enjoyed watching from the corner of the room." Granda met the couple in 2012 as a 20-year-old in Miami. On Sunday, Falwell went public, saying Granda did have an affair with his wife, but also said he wasn't involved. In a statement, he accuses Granda of blackmail. He began threatening to publicly reveal this secret relationship with Becky and to deliberately embarrass my wife, family, and Liberty University unless we agreed to pay him substantial monies. Granda denies the blackmail accusation, even releasing this call with her.
His new thing is like telling me every time he hooks up with people, like I don't have feelings or something.
You're gonna make us jealous.
Yeah.
Not trying to do that.
As president of Liberty University, the largest Christian university in the country, Falwell's 2016 endorsement provided a major boost to then candidate Donald Trump.
Dang, Justin. So Here, Jerry is in the corner watching the pool boy fuck his wife.
Hey, if this is what he's into, right? If this is what he gets his jollies off of, fine, right? I'm not going to shame him for it. I don't think anyone should. And how evil it is. Look, okay, this is what he's into. Like, I can't say anything. I'm not personally into that stuff myself, but hey, if it's what he's into, that's fine. What I do have a problem with is his whole notion that of his views, right? He thinks that gays are bad, that sex is evil, that that people should be they should have their sexuality repressed. People will go after him for the hypocrisy, and look, that's true, and I love it when these people who preach about how we need to be morally pure and how all these things are bad, such as sex and gays, and we need to have prayer in schools and all that stuff. And it's funny when these people literally get busted not practicing what they preach, quite literally, actually.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
So whether it's people like Jerry Falwell, whether it's people like George Reekers, who got busted starting up the Family Research Council, which is a vehemently anti-gay group. It's been noted as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Meanwhile, this person has no problem hiring a same-sex escort and taking him on a trip to Europe. So this is the people we're looking at. And the thing I find really fascinating is how they're trying to throw the pool boy literally under the bus. You caught that, right, Julio? How they're like, this guy's a liar. This guy, he
don't believe the pool boy. His pH levels are off.
No, literally, this guy, Jerry Falwell, was literally saying that he's being blackmailed by this guy, and I don't care. Let's say he is, right? Let's say this guy was literally blackmailing Jerry Falwell. Like, okay, then you can handle that. There are legal ways to handle it, right? Why would you have to shame this person in the media? I get it, right? You don't want your reputation as this holier than thou individual who started the moral majority. You don't want that to be ruined. But here's the thing, right? You don't have to ruin your own reputation. Many of others have already done it for you. And here's the thing. I found this really, really fascinating at the end where Becky said, I wish Christians were just as forgiving as Christ to us as Christ is forgiving to us as well. Like, okay, right?
Say that 5 times fast.
Well, it's like, look, basically if Christians and other folks should forgive us just like how Jesus did. And it's like, okay, that's fine, right? Go ask the parents of LGBT youth who committed suicide and go talk to them about the unforgiving views you have about them. And talk to them about how your views literally caused the death of their kids. Go talk to the individuals who may have had repressed sexuality because of your teachings, or they would like to call it God's teachings, but it's literally their teachings. But go ahead, have those conversations, right? I guarantee you, I'll tell you this right now, and I have full confidence to say it. You weren't as forgiving to LGBTQ youth, to women, as much as you were, and as much as you were, you want people to be forgiving of you.
How do we send this motherfucker to conversion therapy to turn him into an actual human? Do we have those type of conversion therapies? Are they FDA approved prior to Trump?
I don't know. But here's the thing, right? I don't shame him for his whatever his sexual preferences and whatever he wants to do. Hey, if he gets his jollies about watching people like have sex, that's fine, right? They want to do that, have at it, Haas. Like, go right on ahead. But don't go and shame others about what they want to do in the bedroom. Whatever they do is their personal business, like how it is yours. So let's get to the final segment. This is actually not necessarily politically related, but it is bizarre and it is real amazing. So let me kind of lay this down, right? And ABC News also did a story like this, covered this as well. And we'll talk about it once they're done. But literally, rescuers came to a house, declared a woman dead, took her body to a funeral home, and she woke up, literally opened her eyes. Let's have ABC News talk about
Let's
this.
watch that video.
Here we go,
Beauchamp's bright eyes looked right back at the Detroit funeral home employee who had just unzipped her body bag. Jeffrey Feiger, the family attorney, saying in an interview they were about to embalm her, which is most frightening. Had she not had her eyes open, they would have begun draining her blood. Over the weekend, paramedics declared 20-year-old Tamisha dead. Her family had called 911 because Tamisha was unresponsive. The fire chief said she was not breathing, and paramedics were not able to revive her. Hours later, staff at the funeral home realized the mistake. Feiger calling it one of people's worst nightmares, adding the 1.5-hour wait going to the funeral home instead of the hospital was critical to Tamisha's recovery. This morning, Tamisha is in critical condition and on a ventilator. It's still unclear what led up to the 911 call, but foul play is not suspected.
Emergency personnel insist they followed the right protocols. Officials say Tamisha's undisclosed medical history played a role in her body being released without further forensic examination. The city...
Oh, hell no. Justin, what would you do if you woke up and you're at your fucking funeral?
No, so it was even more scary, right? These people were literally about to embalm the body, right? They were about to drain that person's blood.
Whoa.
So yeah. First of all, actually, I don't even want to know, and I'm not sure what I would do if I saw a body.
What does one do? Oh my God.
And it opened its eyes in the middle of this procedure, right? Like.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
I here's the thing, right? I know some people who I've spoken to about this. They would literally run out of the room.
I would get my Forrest Gump run on.
Dude, some people would literally be fascinated by this. Obviously, this may have been a failure of oversight or whatnot from the rescuers, and it's kind of a shame because taking the body to the funeral home instead of a hospital really could have meant the difference in making sure this person actually has a full recovery.
Word, true.
This person actually is in the hospital, from what I heard, is in critical condition. This individual is also on a ventilator right now as we speak. But I want to pose this to the audience, right? This is a what would you do type of question. What would you do if you were in a funeral home and you saw a body who you thought was dead open their eyes suddenly? What would you do? Put it in the comments, actually. We'd like to know. If your comments are, or if we find your comments to be rather fascinating, we'll read them on the next show because, we want you guys to take ownership of this show, right? So we want to know, what would you do